All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Live podcast. I am your host, Kyle Malzhan, alongside here with one of my co-hosts, Mark Talarico. Well, the Cubs finish up their opening series in Miami today, and they are headed to Cincinnati 2-2. And I think it's safe to say splitting a series with one of the worst teams in baseball is very disappointing. But there were many times the Cubs could have busted out some leads, but struggled to in key situations. Now, Mark, what are some impressions about Miami? I know for me, the bullpen was used a lot, but was really good. And if you look back into the 2017 season, at the end of it, it became a problem. But, adding pieces like Justin Wilson, if he can get back, like we always say, to his self, Steve Cishek looks good. These guys had a .75 ERA the whole weekend. So talk to me, what were your impressions in Miami? What were some good? What were some bad? I know for me, the good was the bullpen, obviously. They looked really sharp.
Yeah, well, like you said, the bullpen looked real sharp. I had them that they had 24 innings with 2 earned runs. That's incredible. We'll take that all the time. And at the same time, yeah, our starting pitching didn't look too great. I think Hendricks looked good, and Lester looked a little shaky, but the Cubs were able to win that one. But if you're going to go ahead and doubt Lester and Quintana and Yu Darvish, then I don't know what you're doing, because those are 3 proven pitchers that they're going to perform when they need to, and it's just the first series. And I noticed that our hitters, the way that the Cubs work is that if a couple guys are going, the rest of the team seems to go. But if a couple guys are slumping, then that kind of sets the tone. So that's kind of how it was last year. The Cubs were either hot or they weren't. Hopefully that's not going to be the case this year. I'm really not too worried about it. They just need to find that perfect rhythm.
Exactly. And like you said, easy for everyone to make assumptions, right? Yu Darvish, Quintana, and Lester all underperform. Cubs Twitter was kind of going at it with the whole Yu Darvish takes and the Jake Arrieta. They didn't want Yu Darvish. But look, this guy is really good. And like I've been saying on Twitter, when John Lester came over here in 2015, he didn't get his first win until May 1st of that year. And Yu Darvish is going to be really good in the long term. I think a lot of fans are looking micro into this 4-game series when they should be looking macro. Baseball is a huge grind. It's an everyday thing. It's 162 games, the most games ever in any sport. So we take day by day. And the best thing about baseball is you can go 3-1 and still come out on top and stuff like that. So, but the thing about it, I don't think you should be worried at all about this pitching staff. Like you said, these guys are really good, and down the stretch, they're going to be instrumental in the Cubs' success. And I think it's okay to feel like the Cubs underperformed, because they did, and you should feel disappointed. But do I think that they're not going to win the Central because of a 4-game series in the beginning, not even in the midst of April yet? No, I think they're going to win the Central. I think they're going to win 90+ games. So I wouldn't base too much. I wouldn't get too invested in this series, how it turned out. But something to take away from that would be moving guys over for the Cubs, because it was a problem. In 2017, we didn't see, sometimes we had struggles with guys hitting over people in key situations, and that took a blow on the Cubs this series.
Mm-hmm.
But, if guys can step up like Anthony Rizzo, Chris Bryant, Contreras, get those guys over, Cubs are looking really good, because they had, like I said, they had a lot of times where they could have broke out the lead, but they just didn't, because we had a lot of traffic on the bases. So the thing about how I look at it, if we get one or two of those hits during that series, this series is looking a whole lot different. So I wouldn't be too concerned if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my God, we just lost to one of the worst teams in baseball. It's okay. We have 158 more games to go. So which causes my next question. Who impressed you most? I know for me, Addison Russell looked really good. And in 2017, he was kind of that guy who was lost in the mix, because in 2015, 2016, he was a really good piece for the Cubs. And then 2017, he goes down with that injury. He has stuff on and off the field that, really took a toll in his playing. But for me, he's looking really good right off the bat. He had a good spring, and it's carried over in the 2018 season. You hope that can continue. He hit the ball well, some pop in his bat, made some great defensive plays. And we always knew that he was good defensively. He's going to be a huge addition for the 2018 Cubs to get him back on the pace he was at. And Kyle Schwarber, he's looked really good too. He smoked the ball, 2 home runs in the series. He legged out a few hits to stretch him out further. Without that knee brace, he's and slimmed down. He's going to be a lot faster. He's going to be a lot more aggressive on the bases. He likes that, and I think it's okay for Joe to kind of send him in some situations, because why not? the guy has so much confidence right now. So he seems to be reacting quicker to the ball as well. Like his bat speed is coming around a lot quicker, and I think that's huge for his success offensively, because last year it seems like he was getting blown by some fastballs. Now, for you, I'm sure Addison Russell and Kyle Schwarber impressed you. Expand on that a little bit, or maybe some other guys that were kind of lost in the mix this weekend that looked really good.
Well, Chris Bryant looks great. I think he did really well. He saw the ball well. And Ben Zobrist, when he played, he did really well. He got the job done, and he got that go-ahead lead for the Cubs last night. And the other players, we know that Rizzo is going to perform. We know that Contreras is going to perform, and I'm not going to doubt against Ian Happ and Javi Baez. So I'm not worried about our hitters. The fact that my 4 players that really impressed me was Bryant, Addy, Schwarber, and Zobrist. Those 4, I think they looked really good.
Yeah, I mean, and it's crazy because Chris Bryant impressed me a lot too. I'm really high on Chris Bryant, but we all know what he does. So when he does it, it doesn't surprise me. And it's like kind of that given that he should be out there, impressing people, but we shouldn't have to speak upon it. But I think it's important for us to speak upon it because Chris Bryant's stuff, it shouldn't go under the table. And like you said, Zobrist, a lot of people were complaining why Ian Happ wasn't in their role, but Ian Happ, since hitting that homer in game 1 opening day, he's looked awful at the plate. And Zobrist really smacked the ball pretty well there, and he gave the Cubs the extra go-ahead run the other night. So I mean, there's so many pieces on this Cubs team to find success, and dude, it's just going to be a great season. Now let's talk about this bullpen. The bullpen was used a lot. Some underperformance by John Lester, Jose Quintana, Yu Darvish. But the Cubs bullpen really held up and was very efficient, which is huge because, like I said, later in the 2017 season, they got gas and we couldn't rely on anyone. And they posted a .75 ERA and so many innings that they had to pitch, like you said. Now, what are your biggest takeaways from this bullpen of this weekend?
What I realized from the bullpen is that they're ready. They are ready to play, and they're ready to prove any doubters wrong. Because if you read anything during the offseason, it was, the Cubs have one of the best rotations in baseball. They have one of the best baseball. That has been proven, but they had no clue what to expect from the bullpen. And that's why, if anything, I'm feeling good because the bullpen, they pitched 24 innings, and they looked amazing. And that's going to be so huge because we know that the pitchers are going to perform and that the bullpen won't be needed as much every single game. They're not going to be pitching 24 innings every 4 games. We know that's not going to be happening. And we know that the hitters are going to give them the insurance that they need. So the fact that the bullpen was able to perform when they needed to, that's huge for me. I feel great about it.
Yeah, I felt great about the bullpen too. And it's easy to write off the Cubs, starters of this series, but dude, let's not invest too much time into it because these guys are professionals. They're on the Cubs for a reason. They're going to grind out. Couple bad starts to start the season. When we're in October baseball, we're going to look back and kind of laugh about this. But now the Cubs, they split in Miami, and now we're on to Cincinnati. 2-game series, we get an off day, then we go to Miller Park in Milwaukee. So we got some NL Central battles going on, and the Brewers are looking pretty good. I mean, Yelich and Kane are definitely stepping up in those roles that they have. Yelich 5-for-5 day and yesterday, and Kane has looked really good too. So Brewers are hot off the gates, and I know I've had my fair share of hot Brewer takes because I'm in a Wisconsin market. So I've seen all my buddies talking about the Brewers, and actually one of my buddies today, we were talking about the Cubs and Brewers, and he was telling me how he thinks that the Brewers lineup is better, which baffled me. And he also said that he thinks that they'll finish better and he thinks the Brewers will win 89 games and the Cubs win 87. So, and I just had to stop. I just stopped the conversation there. But the Brewers are going to be really good, and it's going to be a fun series each time we play them because 2 competitive young teams going right at it. But I do think that the Cubs will win the NL Central. Now, the Cubs go to Cincinnati, 2-game series, like I said. You're going to see Tyler Chatwood, you're going to see John Lester, and for me, if there's one hitter to be really terrified about, it's Joey Votto, one of the best hitters in the NL right now. And for a few years back, he's been the best hitter in the NL, one of them. And Scooter Gennett is he came over to Cincinnati after getting cut by the Brewers, and he had a marvelous year last year. I mean, the guy just raked. He had a 4 home run game that one game. So, and he had a 4-for-4 opening day. So he's obviously hitting the ball well. But those are 2 hitters that I would be concerned about. You never like to see a guy like Joey Votto up to the plate with men on base, because he's the type of guy who can change a ball game. Because even though the Reds are kind of under the radar right now and they're not really good, they have a good hitter within Joey Votto, and it's kind of like a wasted talent there. Not a lot of people understand how good he really is because the Reds are really bad. So for you, when you look at this series, talk to me, my man. Who are you looking forward to facing, or some hitters you're scared to? What concerns you? Talk to me.
Well, along with Scooter Gennett and Joey Votto, Joey Votto hasn't had a great start to the season yet, but we all know who he is. He is actually, if you look at his like advanced stats, OPS, everything, he's one of the best players like ever. He's unbelievable. His stats are insane. And Scooter Gennett, he had a great opening series. Scott Schebler, actually, if that's how you pronounce his last name, not entirely sure. But he gets on base a pretty solid amount. It looks like he had a good series, a good couple games there. So he's someone to keep in mind. But otherwise, it's really just make sure Joey Votto and Scooter Gennett get out, and the Cubs should be good.
Yeah, and I agree with that. When I look at this series, obviously, like I said in the previous podcast when we were, doing the Marlins, podcast, I was kind of like, they're going to face some adversity, which they did. And I even called the Yu Darvish giving up 5 runs in his debut. So when I look at this series, I mean, it should be an easy 2 games. I don't know easy, but they should win. And I think the Cubs have always played well in Cincinnati too. And I think it's just hitting the ball and moving guys over and making sure those guys score. When you have one out and a guy in second, making sure you can get them to third and then maybe get in a base hit or something like that. I think that's the biggest keys for the Cubs to win this series. And I think it's a 2-game series. Like I said, Chris Bryant hits really well in this ballpark. Wilson Contreras hit a grand slam there last year. So these guys are familiar. They play there a lot more. And look at here, the Marlins Park is not hitter friendly at all. The Cubs smack the ball. Like Joe Madden said, he has never had a game, like he's never been shut out and hit the ball so well like the Cubs did. The Cubs were just getting unlucky. I mean, man, it was a weird series in Miami. I mean, we had a lot of bullpen use. I mean, the Cubs smacked the ball and still got unlucky every time. But what are some keys to win in Cincinnati? Like I said, I think it's more so just hitting the ball, keeping these starting pitchers sane, and then just moving guys over and everything else. So tell me what some keys for you to win in Cincinnati.
I think what's going to be really important is getting off to a hot start, because both of the starters that the Reds have is Tyler Mahle, who he has pitched 4 games in his career. He's going game 1. And then Cody Reed, who has 11 starts for his career with a career ERA of 6.75. So while Mahle, he's one of their better prospects in the past, and he has a career 2.7 ERA. That's only over 20 innings. It's a very small sample size. I think that the Cubs need to recognize, okay, we're going against a couple young, unexperienced guys who don't really have a whole lot to prove, and it's time to make sure that we could hit home runs and get the runs and make sure that they convert. And so many times in the series, I would see, leadoff double, or single brought over to second base with 1 out, and then nothing happens. And there were times Hayward had a hit yesterday where it was a rope down the line and then it was caught. It was just a bad location. Zobris in game 2, he was about 10 feet away from a solo home run. I thought he hit it out, actually. I thought that went out. And it was just bad luck. And baseball is going to baseball sometimes. And I think that water's going to find its level. And I think the Cubs could really blow up a couple of the starters here.
Absolutely. Like the baseball gods will always give, take a few and then give them back. Yeah. Especially with the Cubs, we play at Wrigley Field where a lot of balls stay in the ballpark, but they will also give you some. And, I think, when you look at this Cubs lineup, this is a young team that likes to crush the ball, and they will strike out a lot. And they did that versus the Miami Marlins. And I think sometimes the Cubs like to make unknown pitchers feel like they're Randy Johnson on the mound. Yeah. So hopefully the Cubs don't let that get in their mindset, and they can come out just doing what the Cubs do and smack the ball and get to these pitchers really early on. Like you said, just coming hot off the gate, putting the pressure right on them. I mean, you're facing Ian Happ, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Wilson Contreras, Kyle Schwarber right off the bat. So the damage right there is possible. It's just how do you convert that, or how do you get a few runs here and there? And Man, this was opening week. It wasn't half the games weren't even April yet. So
Yeah.
I'm not too concerned about what happened in Miami. New series, we're starting fresh. I'm looking forward to the series in Cincinnati. I'm looking to see what the Cubs can do at Miller Park versus a hot Brewer team right now off the gate. I mean, they should be too. They got some nice pieces. Their pitching still is a question, but they're performing well, and I think it's okay to recognize that. And I think it's going to be a fun battle in the Central for them. But the Cubs split 2-2 in Miami. They go to Cincinnati now, a 2-game series. Hopefully we can come out 2-0 and if I think it would be a disappointing series again if we split. How about you? Do you think so?
Yeah, I think that there's no reason why the Cubs shouldn't take both these games here. Once again, as long I'm expecting Lester to look better this time, more comfortable second time around. I'm expecting a big outing from Chatwood. He had a really nice spring, and I think that since he's been flying under the radar a little bit, he doesn't have nearly as much pressure as Yu Darvish did or anything like that. So I expect Chatwood to look really good when he pitches. And you mentioned, I just wanted to get this out there. You mentioned how half the games weren't even played in April. A lot of those submissions, when we asked about who like the World Series predictions, I just want to bring to everybody's attention that the New York Yankees are also 2-2 as they split in Toronto. Toronto isn't that good either. I'm just getting that out there. I just want to get that off my chest.
Exactly. I wouldn't invest too much into the opening series at all. Like I said, in 2015, that team won 97 games, and they also started off 2-2.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's just not too much to be worried about. I mean, if you're looking at being worried, I think it's just moving the runners over and kind of that stuff. I wouldn't be too worried about the starting pitching. I think the guys are fine. They're going to be fine. Some nerves with you, Darvish.
Yeah.
Like I said, it always happens. I mean, the lights are on you and everything else. So Wednesday, after the Cincinnati series, I just want to throw this out there. We will have a guest on the Cubs Live podcast, Brewers fan, a huge Brewer fan who covers the team pretty well, actually. He's one of my buddies, Mitch Lidke. He will come on the show. We'll talk about the Cubs and Brewers series, preview it a little bit, and I'm excited for it because the I-94 rivalry is going to be heating up here pretty quick here with the Brewers coming up in the NL Central. So I'm excited for that, and watch out for that coming on Wednesday. Now, like we said, Cubs split in Miami, 2-2, heading on to Cincinnati. Hopefully we can go 2-0. Tyler Chatwood, John Lester coming in. I'm excited for Tyler Chatwood to make his Cubs debut. I mean, he's had a great spring, like you said, so I'm excited for it. Mark, appreciate you as always, the work you've done. It's a pleasure to have you on the show and on the website doing what you do best. I mean, it doesn't go under volume. You do so great. So the Cubs, Miami, 2-2, on to Cincinnati. I'm looking forward to it. I'm Kyle. He's Mark. Thank you, and go Cubs go.